Okay, so turns out bees are super fascinating. And when it comes to epigenetic changes, they are a perfect example of this, meaning, based on the food that a larvae or an egg is fed, it determines what kind of bee it turns into, right? It honestly completely changes what it looks like, what it can do, what it's capable of. So interestingly enough, if you think about a hive, there's three bees. There are drones, those are male, and their sole purpose is to mate with the queen, right? So sperm on wings, essentially. Then you have your worker bees, female, and then you have your queen. Sole purpose of the queen is to produce eggs. And the worker bee does everything else. So collect nectar, takes care of the hive, everything. So the worker bee's function is to do everything else that's necessary to maintain the hive, to produce more bees and to produce honey. And when a hive determines that it needs a new queen, because there's one queen per hive, and there's about 100 to 1 when it comes to worker bee to drones, right? So there's more worker bees than there are drones. When the hive determines that it needs a new queen, then at the larvae stage or the egg stage, turns out initially everybody is fed royal jelly. There's a substance, right, that is created by the worker bees. And all the eggs are fed royal jelly for the first 3 days. After that point, if a new queen is needed, then one particular egg is fed royal jelly for the rest of the time. All the others are then switched to a different substance of essentially like honey and pollen. But the other egg is maintained with royal jelly. And it turns out there are substances in royal jelly, compounds in royal jelly, that end up causing changes to the DNA that turns that egg into a queen. When you look at all the bees, they are genetically exactly the same in their infancy as, initially. They are exactly the same. And it's because of that royal jelly that then changes that DNA so that that becomes a queen. And in turn, the queen is larger. She's able to lay eggs, right? The worker bees are essentially sterile. They can't lay eggs. So they are, they have sort of rudimentary ovaries as opposed to the queen, which has fully developed ovaries. She's able to lay eggs. She's larger. She does things completely different that worker bees can't do, purely based on the fact that she's been fed royal jelly the entire time. So what would be that equivalent for humans? What would be our royal jelly, right? That health promoting lifestyle, if we can say that being the queen is kind of the epitome of health. So for us, it's whole food, right? You want to look for food that is food. So we're talking fresh vegetables, whole vegetables, obviously cooking, steaming, right? I'm not going to get into all those nuances, but essentially you want the food to look like food. Fruit in abundance, right? Whole apples, berries. And again, we'll get into a lot more detail about what are the benefits of certain ones, but essentially whole food. Your legumes and your beans, right? That's an excellent source of protein, excellent source of fiber. Fiber is critical when it comes to gut health. So leaning on those beans are huge. Whole grains, quinoa, couscous, all of those things, whole grain, those give you complex carbohydrates. There is a huge misnomer that carbohydrates are bad for you. And there's a kick to sort of be low carb and stay away from carb. That is wholeheartedly incorrect. What we need to do is eat complex carbohydrates because that has fiber. Fiber is the key, right? So you want to stay away from refined carbohydrates, the things where we've stripped the husk off the grain, right? We've stripped all the fiber off of it and we've processed it and we've refined it and we've turned it into something else. Those are the foods that are disease promoting. But health promoting is whole grain, still has the fibrous husk around it. And the other thing is, so we said fruits, we said veggies, beans, whole grains. Those are the key ones, I would say. Because that's where you're going to get your fiber. You only get fiber from sort of plants, right? Fruits and veggies, those sorts of things. The disease-promoting choices are going to be, again, things that are processed. things where it doesn't look like the food anymore. It comes in a package, in a bag. So those things are going to be disease promoting. Things that you have refined or added sugars in, right? Those will also be disease promoting. So there's so much research out there around sugar and how it changes, our brain chemistry. It is highly addictive and is truly disease promoting. So we want to limit, if not stay away from those, as well as processed and red meat. Those are also disease promoting. I'll talk a little bit more about specifically what that puts us at risk for, but processed meats, hot dogs, red meat, those are disease promoting. I would even go so far as to say animal protein in general is disease promoting. And again, depending on your goals, right? Are you looking for disease reversal? Do you have a cancer diagnosis that you're treating? That's really going to dictate how tight you are with these recommendations. My personal preference, if people are willing to get as close to being 100% plant-based, that is by far the cleanest and healthiest way to eat. But if we want to introduce some animal protein, depending on your goals, that may be acceptable. But cleanest, healthiest way is to be 100% plant-based, especially if you're going for disease reversal. Absolutely. So again, health promoting, whole food, plant-based, complex carbohydrates, high in fiber, your fruits, your veggies, your beans, your grains. That's where you want to lean on. When it comes to disease promoting, your sugars, your processed foods, saturated fats you want to stay away from, animal protein, and then for sure processed and red meat. So over the next month or so, think about, what are you consuming 90% of the time? And just see where you land on that spectrum of health to disease promoting. No judgment, just where are you? And then think about what are your goals, right? Where are you trying to get to? And then where do you need to be on that spectrum? And start to make some changes. Start to switch some of your meat to plant protein. Start to switch some of the refined processed carbohydrates to whole grain complex carbohydrates. See how you feel. We're going to do sort of a 7-day where I'm going to ask everybody for 7 days to eat super, super clean. Because I want you to feel what that feels like. If you're ready to do that now. If you want to wait for the prompt, that's fine. But I want you to feel what that feels like. It is an amazing feeling when you are eating clean. Your body pays you back in spades. So that's coming. But if you're ready, start now. Otherwise, just think about where you are, where you want to be, and start to make some simple changes in that nutrition. And then again, right, think 6 months. Where do you want to be in 6 months? What does that look like? And when you look back, what would need to have happened to have said, okay, you know what, this is what I came here for. And then let's start getting you there. Talk about it in the group. Let's get some support and let's figure out how we help you get there. Alrighty?